Well now, this just got interesting. We got an addendum to yesterday's video because we have some brand new information. Now granted, this news is not official because it's not officially on the HorrorNights.com webpage for either Orlando or Hollywood. But it is official as it's already gotten out, and because it's already gotten out, speculation has turned to fact, and now I can talk about it. So, let's start with what happened recently. A few days ago, John Murdy basically said there wasn't going to be an announcement this week. And Mike Aiello followed suit saying there wasn't going to be an announcement this week. So, there was a picture that was released via the Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood Snapchat that everyone was connecting, even myself, I'll admit it, to an American Werewolf in London, and because I thought I may have possibly seen the blue moon in the background. But, upon further speculation, I'm realizing now that I was wrong, and the reason they both announced rather quickly after one another that there was not going to be an announcement this week is because, number one, there was speculation there was supposed to be, and number two, it was a share. And it would be a share of one of the properties that has been rumored to come to both events. Now, a lot of people were saying, including myself, I'll admit it, that it would be Dracula Untold. Now, the reason why is because the trailer got out before Universal wanted it to, and then it premiered a few weeks ago, so it was out for everyone to see. And then all the speculation was the fact we're going to get an announcement of Dracula Untold, and that was going to be a shared IP. Where I now believe that it will not be a shared IP, and it sounds like it's just coming to Orlando. No, actually, this would be a share of a different type of fangs. A specific type of fangs, and a completely different intellectual property altogether. So, John Murdy was pretty much quiet after that. And Mike Aiello took center stage with the Horror Nights Orlando Twitter feed and basically said, because we've been so patient, even though I know all of us haven't been, of waiting for an announcement to be made, that he was going to throw us a bone and throw us 3 pictures, images from inside our mazes this year. Now, the first image actually was taken from the Big Spot, an interior of the Big Spot that is going to be utilized in our Walking Dead maze this year. One of them was an interior outline, very bare bones, basically just wood. Wood in shape of a convenience store, or a Big Lots in this case, because that's pretty much what Big Spot looks like to me from just looking at pictures. Like I said, I don't watch The Walking Dead, so I wouldn't know specifics, but that's what it looks like. It looks like Big Lots to me. So, we have that, and then the second image was for a side view of the interior. Looks like you could probably set up some sort of groceries in that area. Like an end cap you basically would see at like a Kmart or a Target or anything like that. Walmart. So yeah, we have that. And then the third image was not from the Walking Dead maze. No, the third image was actually a picture of a flannel-clad arm that appeared to be coming out of a mouth. So the first thing that popped into my head personally was the fact it was coming out of a mouth of a clown. And this was part of our steampunk clown factory, which every single day I'm starting to believe will still feature Jack the Clown in his return to the event. As a matter of fact, I do think there will be an announcement involving the return of Jack's back coming in our future in Orlando, but not quite yet. We'll talk about that in a few. So we got this picture, and it was really interesting that Mike Aiello gave us these bones and basically said that once you guys hear that there's going to be an announcement, once I find out that I can say something, I'll say something. And then put over the Twitter feed and told us to spread the word, and we have. So yeah, that's basically what we had for that. So then all sorts of craziness started. Because then we started hearing rumors This was already announced a while back on Orlando United that the codename of Ritual, which a lot of people connected to the Boogeyman, or specifically El Kukui, or maybe Legendary Truth, was going to end up being scrapped because Orlando got access to another IP instead. Therefore, there was an announcement. Not obviously, none of this is official, but speculation would tell us that there was 4 IPs and 4 originals this year in Orlando. Well, that would be altered, pun intended here, because it now switched to 5 versus 3, which would mean that Charlie is an original and has nothing to do with The Conjuring, but I still believe that The Conjuring is coming to Hollywood. Like I said, the poker clue is just perfectly cryptic and perfectly carny. It works spot on in every single way. But we'll talk about that. Like I said, I'm going to bounce back and forth in Orlando and Hollywood in this video because this is basically talking about both events, not just one. So yeah, this is one of my speculation videos. That's not really speculation, it's basically just truths. And a couple of speculation bits at the end that I have sprinkled around the side as well that possibly could come to the event as well. Yeah, that was a roundabout way to get to nothing, but that's what happens when you don't edit, folks. Sorry. So, basically what we were hearing on top of this was that Ritual is gone, and Ritual has been replaced by what is going to be Alter. Well, Alter was mentioned a while back to come to the event. Alter eventually was taken off the table. Alter was put back on the table, then taken off the table. Then Alter was put back on the table, taken on the table. It's literally been like back and forth. Like teeter-totter back and forth. I feel like my head's been on a swivel this entire speculation season. Because it sounded like we were going to lose one thing, and then it sounded like we're going to lose another, and then it sounded like we're losing one thing, we're going to get that one thing, get the other. So, but yeah, now we're pretty much solid to believe what is exactly coming to the event, and now we are going to have 5 intellectual properties and 3 originals. I don't think they go to 6 to 2. I do think that if they would have made Charlie the Conjuring, they probably would have announced it or it's gotten out somehow by now. So yes, Smile, which is the code name for our steampunk clown factory, and Ritual is now gone, so it is now taken off the table completely. Charlie is now our living doll house, regardless of what that may be, and our crows, which is our Croatoan and Virginia Dare, and the Thanks killing that people were mentioning. The cannibalistic Thanksgiving house, yeah, that's probably going to be coming as well. So yeah, all those are locked in now. And now we pretty much know our event. Or do we? So, like I said, Alter was put off the table and we thought it was gone. Well, now it's back. And it's back officially. Hasn't been officially announced yet because, obviously, they're not making an announcement right now. But given the fact that the Halloween facade of the Myers house that's going to be in one of the Sprungs, everyone that was in attendance for the grand opening of Diagon Alley on Tuesday, they got to see that area. If they were in the line long enough, they got to see that area and they got to walk right past it. I know a lot of people would be like, yeah, wow, we're waiting in line. What's that stuff? And the team member was like, don't worry about it. Just keep playing heads up. As a matter of fact, play with our team member, Frank. Frank play heads up with the people. I was like, okay. Like, distract them now, don't let them know Michael Myers is coming. Stuff like that. But yeah, that's what we had. And then, of course, everyone seems to know that Soap Commercial is an American Werewolf in London and Hollywood, so that means that we were going to get Werewolf announced for the full moon that was supposedly, I believe it's this weekend. I'm not positive. Obviously, I'm not an astronomer, so I would know these things. But I don't pay attention to things like that, so I wouldn't know these things. But yeah, that's what we were thinking. And me thinking that was a blue moon in the Snapchat picture made me believe that they were going to get Werewolf, we were going to get Halloween, and the next week we're going to get our dual announcements of Dracula Untold and The Purge Anarchy Scare Zone. That now has been changed. And let me mention why it has been changed. So, let's talk Hollywood for a second. So, Malcolm was the official code name for what I believe is going to end up in the House of Horrors. Malcolm was switched to Empire. The reason why Malcolm was switched to Empire? Well, I'll explain in a minute. Empire, of course, talking about the Ottoman Empire and basically mentioning a location familiar to horror fans and also mentioning that, excuse me, The tour that John Murdy gave to a famous pop star at the time was Michael Jackson. His album is a clue to the theme of the maze. That would be Immortal. And a song by an X-Man, which be Wolverine himself. Hugh Jackman did a song in Les Miserables called Drink With Me, which I connected to Dracula Untold in the last video that I shot yesterday. Now I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, that yes, the vampire clues still count, and we're talking about From Dusk Till Dawn now. So yes, From Dusk Till Dawn is officially Empire. Not officially Empire, but I believe now it's Empire, and that's what they're going to stick with. If that is to be the case, I think Malcolm may have potentially been From Dusk Till Dawn film, the 1996 film, but we'll never know at this point, unless John Murray decides to throw us a bone and let us know down the line. That Snapchat picture that we thought was for American Werewolf in London, yeah, that came into play earlier today, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, a few little tidbits that I want to mention real quick. I talked about now how Empire or Malcolm is From Dusk Till Dawn, and I think it'll end up in House of Horrors, which there's really not much you can put in there, but I think that it would work, and I think that it'll work really well, given the fact that I really couldn't connect anything else with anything. Because I think what I have, for what I believe the 5 code names to be, I think I've got that figured out to the point that I'm pretty positive I'm right. So, let's talk about another thing. So, HHN Fan 16, my good friend Tristan, decided he wanted to post some construction videos. And his construction videos also mentioned something at the tail end of one, and it mentioned talking about team members in Hollywood saying that Evil Dead was coming back to the event. And I know what you're thinking. John Murdy said that he was not going to bring anything that's already been at the event back to the event this year, without obviously some tweaks, i.e. the Purge Anarchy and not Purge Survive the Night in the Scare Zone in New York this year, just like we're getting in Orlando. At least if you believe speculation. But Evil Dead would come in the form of the original Evil Dead. So yes, everything would be in tune with the original Evil Dead, which is what everybody wanted in the first place. They wanted to see Ash in the flesh, but no, they got the new one as well. Well, they were thinking that it would be Evil Dead. Well, what this jumps to me is Evil Dead is about a cabin in the woods. Evil Dead literally is about not a cabin in the woods. Evil Dead equals out to the cabin in the woods. So yes, I stick with my speculation that the cabin in the woods is your 7th maze in Hollywood. And I believe that to be true, and Evil Dead would basically be reusing Evil Dead props to make the cabin in the woods work. I think that makes sense, and I think when they use The Conjuring, I think they use stuff from Insidious to help with the Conjuring as well. That's what I think will end up happening. Well, my other friend, Aaron, who you would know as the Red Steel TV from the Horror Night Updaters, basically mentioned something that I think makes perfect sense, and we're talking about scare zones and potential scare zones. What I think may end up happening is something that he mentioned, and I'll give him complete credit there, that he's talking about a Jack the Ripper scare zone in Baker Street, which makes perfect sense to me. So I think that may be in the cards as well. Because obviously the rest of the scare zones were about myths and traditions. So myths of Jack the Ripper and maybe traditions. I talked about yesterday about El Cucuy or Trick or Treat as a potential scare zone this year when we saw the pumpkins. But then again, that could just be for Parenthood and their Halloween episode, so who knows. And there also could still be a return of clowns coming back, because obviously we're going to be very clown-heavy, and the clowns would work really well, if that is to be the case, to be involved with that original maze, which involves Route 66 and Slash, that we're speculating about to be true. Still don't know anything more about that. I'm going to guesstimate on that one. That's the one I'm not sure about. I'm pretty positive on everything else. That's the one I'm completely kind of wishy-washy on at this point. So, yeah. Now let's talk about Orlando as well. So, obviously, I was talking about Ritual, and Ritual with the Legendary Truth, or El Cucuy, or a Boogeyman, was supposed to be in Soundstage 22. Soundstage 22 is where An American Werewolf in London was last year, and it also is a soundstage, which means that the facade that I believe that they will use, which will end up being the Titty Twister, which obviously is the facade. If you cover that up, only people that go into that soundstage to take in the maze are actually going to see it. So yes, it's not going to be out so everyone can see it. So parents that don't want their children's eyes to see the words Titty Twister and a big strip club with vampires on it on their facade, yeah, they're not going to have to worry about it because they're not going to see anything. So that's what I'm thinking on that, and that makes perfect sense. Now, Dr. Jimmy, in his April Fool's Day video, said this was going to be a very Strangoid-heavy year, and that also would equal out to a lot of vampires. And he mentioned Dracula, and he also mentioned the fact that even though it was a work and it was just done for fun, Twilight would be the street experience. But yeah, basically what we're saying is this will be a very Strangoid-heavy year, because we're both going to have Dracula Untold and From Dusk Till Dawn, 2 vampire properties, and who knows, maybe you'll get vampires in a scare zone somewhere to coincide with them. It's possible. I should have realized this when Hollywood was doing their auditions and they were looking for vampire dancers. And I thought, well, there probably won't be a Bill and Ted this year. That's not officially announced, but speculation says they're not going to be Bill and Ted this year. So maybe it's for something else. And I should have jumped to my mind immediately and said, vampire dancers, bam, titty twister, makes perfect sense. So yeah, I should have known right then and there that From Dusk Till Dawn was coming. But unfortunately, I did not put 2 and 2 together because, like I said, Orlando's been really flip-floppy lately on things. And now I think that we have a grasp on what's really going on. Everything will flow really nicely from this point forward. So, also another funny thing Dr. Jimmy posted was a link on YouTube to the Troublemaker Studios logo, which of course is Robert Rodriguez's production company. And I thought that was funny, and I mentioned it would be really cool if Rodriguez would show up for opening night to mingle with all the media and potentially some of us. If I'm volunteering. But obviously that's probably more of a Hollywood thing than an Orlando thing, if I had to guess. I could be wrong, though. But then again, the fact that From Dusk Till Dawn, the television series, is on Rodriguez's own El Rey network, which is only available via paid subscription, or you can watch the show on Netflix outside the U.S., apparently. And it is the first original scripted series on said El Rey network. So yes, the Troublemaker Studios logo is really funny. It was a nice little tease and everything. Dr. Jimmy, you are an evil genius, sir. But it also completely plays up the fact that we had a connection to Robert Rodriguez. But From Dusk Till Dawn, the television series, is not connected to Troublemaker. It's connected to Rodriguez International Pictures, which of course was behind Planet Terror and Death Proof for Grindhouse. So now I think we've got this covered right now, so let's talk a little bit about From Dusk Till Dawn real quick. And there's a lot to live up to from this show. Obviously, From Dusk Till Dawn, 1996 movie, starring both Gecko brothers, Seth and Richie, being George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino. And, of course, Santanico, which was Salma Hayek, and Kate and Scott Fuller were Juliette Lewis and Ernest Liu, as well as Jacob, which was Harvey Keitel. And there was a character named Carlos at the very end. It was a quick cameo in and out by Cheech Marin, as well as Sex Machine, which is Aiden Tanner, which was played by the great Tom Savini, and Michael Parks portrayed Sheriff Earl McGraw. Now, what we saw today played into this as well. Somehow something happened, and somebody got access to a video that shouldn't have been released yet. And a video has been released announcing that From Dusk Till Dawn, the television series, is going to be your next shared IP between Orlando and Hollywood. And this was an announcement video that was actually shot. It was actually shot on the 19th of June. And John Murdy himself was talking about shooting out an actual video. He said, "That's a wrap. Just finished shooting the next announcement video with lots of guest stars. All of them really, really cool, fun night." That same night, Robert Rodriguez tweeted himself that he was promoting a shoot to promote the release of Season 1 of From Dusk Till Dawn on television on DVD and Blu-ray coming out on September 16th, which coincides with the opening of Halloween Horror Nights, so it makes perfect sense. The synergy is there, even though that's not the code word, but yeah, it's there. So yeah, I have not seen the show, but I'm going to guess that it plays a lot into, obviously, the film, and it takes liberties and does its own work as well. Now, we don't have many familiar faces. We have a few. Wilder Valderrama is involved. He now plays Carlos. And the people that were not involved with the announcement video, Robert Patrick is Jacob Fuller. Don Johnson is now Sheriff Earl McGraw, which is the first time that McGraw has not been portrayed by Michael Parks. And to round it out, Sex Machine is Jake Busey instead of Tom Savini. So yeah, your cast around this time, you have Seth and Richie Gecko are DJ Katrona and Zane Holtz. Santanico this time around is Elza Gonzalez. And Kate and Scott Fuller are Madison Davenport and Brandon Suhu. Carlos is, like I said, Wilder Valderrama. So yeah, that's what we've got. A lot to live up to for that cast, to be totally honest. So yeah, that's what we've got right now. The video will probably be let out sometime next week. If it's not let out before the weekend is over, I know they did not want to make an announcement, but somehow this video got out and people have seen it, and it's basically telling me that From Dusk Till Dawn is your next shared IP between Orlando and Hollywood. Which basically means that Dracula Untold, I don't think is coming to Hollywood now. I think we're just getting it in Orlando. Like I said, a very Strangoid heavy year like Dr. Jimmy predicted in the April Fool's Day video. So that's pretty much what I've got for right now. Obviously, when we get an official announcement, I'll make that announcement here on Pop. And as always, want to shout out to all the Horror Nights updaters all over YouTube. The great Dr. Jimmy, Documo, my friend John, Psychomassacre Films, my friend Vic, Dr. Emma Brown 1, Admiral HHN, HHN Trogdor, HHN Fan 16, my friend Tristan, the Horror Nights updaters as a collective, my friend Neil UKHHN, Mr. Horror Nights, Thrill Seeker Network, the Red Steel TV, Deadly Fear 1283, The Crazy Englishman, Jeremy Films, Double Z at the end, and HHN Phantom and HHN Fanboy. Shout out to all of you, and also shout outs to Orlando United, Orlando Informer, and Horror Nights Nightmares for your awesome content on your forums, as well as everyone talking Halloween Horror Nights on Facebook and Twitter. So shout outs to all of you and everyone that's watched these videos and enjoyed these videos throughout this awesomely crazy speculation period. So, if you like these videos and you like these Horror Nights videos, then spread the word about the Horror Nights videos and about my channel Pop in general. You can go ahead and do it a couple simple ways. Number one, if you haven't yet, go ahead and go to Facebook and go like our Facebook fan page. It's under Sir Owen Disney Pop. If you'd like to send me a friend request on Facebook, it's Owen Disney. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, it's at Sir Owen Disney. If you'd like to ask me questions about Halloween Horror Nights, you want to talk Horror Nights, you want to talk just basic Disney or Universal or wrestling or movies with me, you're more than welcome to do that. You want to ask me any specific questions I couldn't answer on here for good reason, or if you'd like to become a popcaster yourself, send all your information in an email to sirowendisney@gmail.com. In the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching, and until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all I got to say about that.